Why does the path get harder just when we're growing the most? After decades as a pastor and spiritual teacher, I have watched a consistent pattern. Deeper devotion often stirs unexpected resistance, emotionally, physically, or even energetically. In this reflection, I explore why spiritual seekers attract this kind of pushback through the complementary lenses of the Law of One and A Course in Miracles, and why it's actually a sign that your light is rising, not falling. For several decades, I've lived with one foot in the world of spiritual leadership and the other in the very human experience of doubt, shadow, and resistance. When I was a young pastor, I often found that whenever I stepped into deeper devotion, service, or clarity, a strange countercurrent would rise up, sometimes from people, sometimes from circumstances, and sometimes from places I could only describe as not of this world. At the time, I didn't have the language for it. Was it spiritual attack, psychic influence, or just a friction of trying to transcend a dualistic world while still living in it? Over the years, I've come to see that anyone who sincerely seeks the light will eventually meet the shadows that gather around its edges. That's why I'm writing about this now, not to sensationalize it, but to normalize it, to offer a grounded, loving perspective for those who have felt this same invisible resistance on their path. There's an irony on the spiritual journey that few people talk about. Yet every sincere seeker eventually encounters the more deeply you commit to the light, the more the shadows seem to stir. Across traditions, mystics describe the same experience. Jesus faces temptation in the desert. Buddha encounters Mara beneath the Bodhi tree. St. John of the Cross calls it the dark night. Ra, in the Law of One, calls it psychic greeting. A Course in Miracles says the ego always speaks first and loudest, especially when threatened. Different languages, same phenomenon. But what does it mean? And why does it happen? Let's explore this in a grounded, compassionate way that honors both Ra's teachings and A Course in Miracles teachings on oneness and healing of the mind. Light attracts attention. Not because you're weak, but because you're bright. Ra explains that highly polarized service to others individuals become beacons in the metaphysical landscape. They shine, they broadcast. Their presence itself becomes catalytic. This visibility draws benevolent support and increased friction not as punishment, but as an energetic consequence of radiance. A Course in Miracles puts it simply, fear is a call for love. Negativity isn't a force that can overpower you. It's a distortion seeking correction, a cry for healing. True spiritual leaders are more open and thus more vulnerable. This is counterintuitive but profoundly true. Those who lead with sincerity, compassion, and transparency are, by nature, open. Open hearts feel more. Open minds perceive more. Open souls radiate more. But openness also means you don't block the world out. You notice discord more quickly. You sense subtle emotional currents. You're vulnerable to exhaustion or self-sacrifice. You care, sometimes too much. In the Law of One, Ra uses Carla as a prime example. Her purity made her strong in love, yet vulnerable in body and energy. A Course in Miracles would say her openness created a thin veil, allowing fear to arise more quickly, not because she was flawed, but because her love was real. Negativity can't touch the light, so it targets the periphery. In the Law of One, Ra is adamant, negative entities cannot penetrate the heart or touch your essence, so they try to disturb the edges of your being with fatigue or emotional overwhelm, tension in relationships, old wounds resurfacing, or sudden discouragement, self-doubt, and bodily weakness. In A Course in Miracles language, the ego reacts to your progress and attempts to distract you, not because it can stop your awakening, but because it fears becoming unnecessary. The greatest vulnerability comes from your greatest strength. This is one of the most beautiful and sobering teachings in the raw material. The negative greeting must use what is already within you. Whatever your distortion is, overgiving, guilt, people-pleasing, unworthiness, that becomes the lever negativity or ego will press. Your shadow becomes the entry point, but your shadow is also the doorway to healing. Seen this way, every challenge is an invitation to release one more layer of fear. Just as A Course in Miracles says, trials are but lessons you failed to learn presented once again. Protection is not ritual. It is alignment. Ra is exceptionally clear. The banishing ritual worked for the L&L research group only because of their collective love, intention, and harmony. Not the symbols, not the words, not the gestures. In the same way, A Course in Miracles tells us nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. The true protection is always a quiet heart, forgiveness, willingness, and gentleness, inner listening, and unity with others. Remembering you are not alone. Light is not defended by force. It is defended by presence. Why this matters for your spiritual journey today. If you've ever felt suddenly discouraged after a breakthrough, unexpectedly fatigued during spiritual work, and rattled by emotional waves, shaken by conflict or misunderstanding, attacked by your own old patterns, or bewildered by inner turbulence after a period of peace, it does not mean you're doing something wrong. It means you are growing, advancing, moving closer to the center of yourself. Ra would say your polarization is increasing. A Course in Miracles would say your fear is surfacing for healing. Your inner teacher would say you are ready to let this go. The disturbance is not a setback. It is a sign that your light has become strong enough to illuminate something you are finally capable of releasing. You do not need to fear spiritual attack. You are not fragile. You are not being punished. You are simply luminous enough that anything unhealed within you is drawn to the surface, asking for love. As Ra might put it, the armor of light is the open heart. As A Course in Miracles puts it this way, the holiest place on earth is where an ancient hatred becomes a present love. So if the shadows feel louder, it's only because your light is rising, and the light is always stronger. If this reflection resonates, and you'd like deeper explorations of A Course in Miracles, the Law of One, and the inner journey of spiritual transformation, consider subscribing or sharing this with someone walking their own path of awakening. Peace to your day. Until next time.